A happy new year to my esteemed students. Today is actually my birthday, the day in which the sun returns to its original position in my natal chart. What better day than to finish up my lesson on the sun? Now, the majority of this was previously recorded when I was having technical issues with my equipment. And you'll hear the hum in the background, hopefully for the last time. But this is also a great illustration of the lesson on the polarity between the Sun and Saturn and the obstacles that I had to go through just to be able to keep recording. So, let's get to it, shall we? Alright, so by now a lot of you have seen the Words of Power teaser trailer for the upcoming project. I can't say a whole lot about it at this time because I'm still working on it, and I'm merely following where I'm being led. What I can say about it is that this is going to propel a lot of people to the next level. It's that good, and I'm even being amazed by it. And it takes a lot to shock my system. Yeah, wow. It's going to be good. You may remember in the earlier video that I said that I need to start producing something by the end of the year-ish. And I'm doing my best to deliver on that. This is my own personal Saturn challenge. And to understand this, we need to take a look at the next planet, which is actually a star, and that is the sun. So let's get into it. The first thing we notice about the sun is its astrological symbol, the circle with the dot in the center. Oh, where have we seen this before? If you've watched the previous lesson on Saturn, you already know that the circle represents Saturn and its boundaries and limitations. And I also explained how anytime that you step into a circle for magical purposes, you're stepping into a Saturn circle. But it's more than that. You are becoming the sun within the circle of Saturn. And this is why in occult books they'll tell you that anytime you step into the circle, you are becoming the center of the universe. See, Saturn imposes the limits and the boundaries, and the sun pushes those boundaries. And this is the polar relationship between Saturn and the sun. Saturn will say, no, you can't do that. And the sun will say, yes, I can. Saturn says, prove it. And then you have to step up and prove it. And depending upon your specific placements, you may have to step up 7 times harder than anybody else in order to prove it. So the sun is the yes to Saturn's no. We've talked a little bit about paranormal shows previously, usually not in a good way, but the very first one that really broke through the boundaries was Ghost Hunters. They had the astrological symbol for the sun built right into their logo. Because up until that time, shows upon the paranormal didn't do so well. It wasn't a topic that one would discuss without being considered nuts or crazy for believing in ghosts and spirits. You didn't discuss that stuff. People were afraid if they had paranormal activity in their house, were actually afraid to tell other people, because they were afraid of what people might think of them. And along comes Ghost Hunters with the sun built into their logo. Yes, we can do this. Yes, we can talk about this. And then after their success, every show wanted to copy them. Obama, his entire campaign was, yes, we can. And they'd have him in pictures where they'd have like a slight halo glow around his head. You know, the Savior, because the sun relates to the Savior, the hero, the one that does push the boundaries, the one that does get things done. Of course, it can be debated on whether or not that actually turned out to be true, but they certainly used their occult knowledge to bolster his campaign. Because these things strike people at a subconscious level. It's part of the human psyche. Remember, occult only means hidden. Doesn't mean the evil, devil, or anything like that. It just means hidden. Things that are hidden from your conscious awareness. And the sun represents your conscious awareness. So of course the occult is going to appear dark and foreboding if it's hidden from your conscious awareness, because the sun shines its light on everything. The sun also represents our sense of self, our identity, our willpower, what we focus on, our goals. As you may notice that the symbol also appears to be like an eye or a bull's eye. And so the sun also represents our goals, what we focus on, and our purpose. And we went over previously why having a purpose is so important. But we also talked about how the planets also have two sides to them. On the flip side, you have ego and self-centeredness. The sun also burns very bright and hot, and therefore the planets that come close to it can get inflamed or burned. Now, when we get into how the signs govern the parts of the body, you'll see how when the sun travels through a certain sign and aspects different planets, that those parts of the body can become inflamed. But that's another talk for another time. The sign in the house of where your sun is in your chart is primarily where your focus is going to be. And the sun is also about self-expression, because we are expressive beings. And that's what the sun does. It projects and radiates out against those boundaries of Saturn. When you express yourself, you're expressing your sun. And on the Kabbalistic tree of life, the sun relates to the Sephiroth of Taparith, which is the heart center. Notice I said center. In order to have a stable center, you have to be yourself grounded and centered. The sun's sign is Leo, which is fixed fire. It's fixed. It doesn't budge. It's constant. If you really want to do something, if you really have a desire and the will to do something, Saturn's job is to get people to tell you you can't do it. No, you can't do that. The sun's job is to say, watch me. I'm going to do what's in my heart center, and I don't care what anyone says. It doesn't matter what obstacles are placed around me, what barriers are placed around me, what limitations surround me, or what anyone says. I'm going to push through that. If you allow others to dictate to you what you can and cannot do, or allow your obstacles and limitations prevent you from doing what's in your heart center, then you are at risk of Saturn winning that polarity battle and becoming what is known as the black sun. Black being Saturn's color, where the limitations and boundaries surround the sun to where it cannot express itself, being resentful, full of malice, ungrateful, essentially becoming black-hearted, where the sun's light cannot penetrate through the darkness. The irony is that Saturn doesn't want you to do that. It sets up these oppositions for the sake of opposition. That is its job. It doesn't want you to fail, but it has to give you these oppositions so that you can succeed. Saturn doesn't put these obstacles and limitations and boundaries and people in your path to cause you to fail. It does so that it can keep the polarity going. Because if you succeed at everything and everything was just easy, you'd sit around saying, well, what's next? There's no challenge for me to undertake. Saturn's duty is to challenge you. And the sun's duty is to take up the challenge. And the sun relates to the hero, the Savior. Christ is the Savior, the sun. The sun is exalted in Aries, because the sign of Aries also has to do with the sense of self. Its motto is, I am. The sun represents the hero, so in Aries it's, I am the hero. The sun is the Savior. It rules the day. I am the hero that saves the day is sun exalted in Aries. And that's why every action movie where it's the hero has to save the day are the big blockbuster movies of the summer. And we talked a little bit about the Saturn being exalted in Libra. You know, another example of that would be the movie The Titanic. Everybody knew how that one was going to turn out, yet it grossed so much money because of the love between the two characters. And then the guy died at the end. Sorry if I spoiled that for you, if you haven't seen the Titanic, but yeah. So that's Saturn in Libra. And we just went through the holiday season. Why do you think they call it Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving? Black equals Saturn's color. Friday is ruled by Venus, which is also the ruler of Libra. Saturn in Libra. They call it that because they want you to come buy things. It's a planet in exaltation, and they know that this has a subconscious effect on people. Just another example. And so the sun is the Savior. It is the Christ, the Son of God. So a lot of pictures that you see of Christ always has that heart, that brilliant heart right there in the center of his chest. All the correspondences are there. And people want to debate whether or not Christ existed. Does it even matter? The problem is, and always has been, focusing on the man instead of the message. And the message was love, peace, and forgiveness, while following your purpose and your goal, even in the face of extreme opposition. See, it's not the sun's job to judge. Judge not, lest ye be judged. Saturn is the judge. That's why judges wear black. I spoke a little bit about the polarity in the Bible in the previous lesson. The sun is supposed to follow its purpose and passion, the passion of the Christ, regardless of the limitations and obstacles before you. And in the case of Christ, was even under penalty of death, which is why it makes it so powerful. The Son of God went around teaching peace, love, joy, happiness, forgiveness, all these things. Because if you follow what's in your heart, you're going to have these things. This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. You know, the Christians will say that, no, Jesus was the Son of God. He was the only Son of God. And, you know, but yet they forget Matthew 5:9, which blessed are the peacemakers, for they are the sons of God. The story of Christ is supposed to be our story. But the translations and explanations and literal interpretations have twisted things to get you to focus on something outside of yourself instead of what's within. They want you focused on history, his story, instead of the mystery, my story. See, Saturn rewards those who push back, those who prove their worth. Saturn gives us these heavy burdens and weights on our shoulders to make us stronger, just as picking up the heavy weights in a weight room will make you stronger. That's the reason that Saturn challenges us and gives us these limitations. The sun rules over the sign of Leo, the mighty lion, Lion of Judah. This sign is the sign of romance, creativity, children, and fun and good times. Its time of year is at the height of summer when the sun is the most fiery in the sky. And when you stop to think about it, it's all those things that are important to us in our heart. Those things that are worth living and dying for. Most people would die for their children, no question. Is the story of Christ starting to make sense now? Christ was willing to die for his purpose. And that purpose was to show you how to correctly follow your purpose. The big one that everyone gets hung up on is forgiveness. So allow me to explain a little bit about forgiveness. First off, if anybody makes you angry, pissed off, or mad, you're allowing those people to have control over you. If someone makes you feel anything, then they're at the cause and you're at the effect. And it's no different if you need someone's approval or validation in order to feel good. You have to generate your own positive sense of self-worth from within. That's what the sun does. Relying on what's outside of yourself is allowing Saturn to dictate how you feel. Everyone runs around worrying about what everyone else is doing. They're playing the blame game, pointing the finger at everybody else as the cause of their problems, which is allowing the ring of Saturn to close in around you. See, Saturn demands responsibility, and the sun accepts the responsibility. So that's step one, is to accept the responsibility for yourself. The sun is supposed to push against Saturn's ring, but it's still within the ring. It still has to play by Saturn's rules. When people do you wrong and make you angry, understand that they're putting a charge on you, a negative charge. By allowing them to upset you and make you angry, you're accepting that charge instead of generating your positive state from within. And by accepting that charge, you yourself are becoming more negative and limited until eventually you have a black heart. Oh, you got to get them back. How dare they? You're putting too much value in the limiting opinions of others instead of your own heart, your own worth, and your own purpose. Well, so-and-so said this to me and did this to me and called me this, and nothing bad ever happens to them. Well, yeah, because you're still holding on to the charge. How can the charge return to source when you're still holding on to it? And I just blew some of your minds right there, didn't I? And isn't that what we teach in Magick, though, that the magic isn't going to happen unless you release the charge for the request to be fulfilled? You got to stop thinking about it and let it go. And that's what forgiveness is letting it go. Letting go of that negative charge. And when you do that, the people that did you wrong are going to take a wallop. And the ones in the know causing all the shit certainly don't want you to know about this, because they're going to get their asses kicked. But you can't go about it with, oh, cool, I'm going to forgive everybody and get them rotten son of bitches back. No, you have to actually let it go. Because if you're doing it for revenge, you're still holding on to it. See, you actually have to let it go and actually forgive them. To forgive is to forget. And once that charge is released, it will go back to source. Or the source that gave it to you. This is what is meant by, vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. It's not your concern. It's not your heart's concern. It's not the Son's concern. And Christ took it a step further. He knew that that would happen, which is why he said, Father, forgive them. They know not what they do. Because Saturn is the judge. Saturn controls the cycle, the circuit. And it's true, though, that people don't know what they're doing. A lot of times, you'll ask them, why did you do that? I don't know, it just felt like it. And typically, it's because they're being influenced by one of the planets, and they're just traveling the path of least resistance. And that will about do it for this particular lesson. I will see you next time. Take care.